Good morning and good afternoon. Maybe some of your participants are coming from some other parts of the world. Good evening also. Continuing with the storyline of Dr. Aimee and Dr. Alex yesterday and today, let me first thank ESTR for inviting me and Dr. Alex and Dr. Aimee also, and to Dr. Hapos, and of course Sir Russell's invitation for today. Let me start with the question, why did we do this study? Before I give you the journey, it will just be a quick one, just to tell you how I and the rest of our team managed to proceed with the research. Please let me know po pag if the audio is quite low or if it's not clear enough so I can adjust my voice. So the purpose of the study, we came up with the study because all of us inside the team, the researchers, we are all volunteers now. And we believe that this study will contribute not only to the academe, to the knowledge, but also to us, Filipinos and organizers and other institutions all over the world, that they may be able to understand how we work. In actual, Dr. Alex and Dr. Aimee did not mention that we are originally having a bigger study from this. We only have the exploratory sequential, but actually there are parallel 3 to 4 more studies to complete the whole actual study, which is the model of Filipino volunteerism. We're actually coming up with the model. And with that, inside that story is the exploratory sequential in order to measure the level of attributes we have for our fellow Filipinos. And hopefully we will be able to be successful in completing the book for the Filipino model of volunteerism, so that we will ultimately contribute not only on the measurement, but in the whole concept of who we really are as Filipino volunteers. That was the general intent of the research itself. And I personally thank Dr. Alex and Dr. Aimee for spending extra time to be with me. Most especially Dr. Ivy from Philippines. She's from Bohol. And she always stay awake until 12 midnight, 1 o'clock just to be with us. So to simplify my journey, I want to give you a dime tour of the journey itself, and hopefully we'll be able to help you in your own journey. We have our own different challenges and struggles when we do our research and our studies, but hopefully the pathway I came in with will be able to shed light at some point. So originally, if you're going for a research, you're looking at the research planning and design. Let me remove this first. Okay. So you're looking at research planning and design. When you start your research, you talk to your advisors, maybe to your peers, your group of academicians. Based on the interest of the researcher, you need to identify what are the gaps or the problems you want to solve. That's the whole point of going for a research, is you want to try to solve a gap or a problem. And then the researcher and the team and the advisors would decide on methodology and the methods to employ. Okay, and as for me, I was guided by 3 PhD, and I'm really blessed to have them for the development of instrument of Filipino volunteerism. So I'll just be quickly discussing what is my experience, my journey in qualitative aspect and the quantitative. And the meta-inference, it will be us all who will be doing that, the consolidation and the integration of both quali and quanti. And later on, do the right reporting according to IMRAD format. But for now, I'll be focusing on quantitative and qualitative as part of my story. Okay, so shall I start with the qualitative? Okay pa po ba kayo? Let me open my... Very clear, sir. Thank you very much. Sige. Okay po. Okay. So I just enumerated what are my experiences, and then once in a while I'll be providing some photos or some figures that you may be able to see what I have been doing through the steps in proceeding from qualitative to quantitative. So first and foremost, before you start the research, as I mentioned, you need to do the design, the planning and the design. Once you have decided with the advisor what will be the design and the methodology and the methods to be used, then I myself, I presented my central question to Dr. Alex, being my advisor. And the central question I submitted, which he approved, is what are the attributes that determine Filipino volunteerism? Frankly, it was not easy. Dr. Alex would not give you any answer at all. And he's the type of professor, a teacher, who would stimulate you, create a stimuli on how you will be able to think of what you really wanted, but he will never give you the answer. So maybe that was one part that made me more determined in my research. So after the approval of the attributes of Filipino volunteerism, immediately you need to ask yourself, who are the participants? We need to set the criteria and the selection. For my study, it was simple. I just want to have a participant in my qualitative study who is a Filipino or a Filipino descent and have been doing voluntary activities, voluntary service for at least 10 years. Because I would like to believe that 10 years or more experience will have that kind of maturity to bring out and contribute in the research itself. Okay? And of course, it was not easy to qualify them because a lot of volunteers are so good and can be considered in the research itself. However, I need to choose the right people from different parts of the world. So I started communicating, linking, and looking for the right networks in order for me to find the right participants. And then when I found out who are these, I started sending invitation, who would agree to join my research, who would participate. And then once the participants started accepting my invitation, maybe through call or email or messaging, I started assigning the codes. I put the first participant as R1, second participant as the R2 and R3, because of the fact that their identity should not be known during the study itself. Even Dr. Alex, Dr. Aini, and Dr. Ivy doesn't know who are my respondents. But everything about the study, we are fully aware of. So after some time, I send the informed consent to their email, and then I send them a reminder of text that mom, sir, doctor, or whoever, I send the informed consent to make sure that they would agree to it and they signed it and send it back to me. So after that, I confirmed my respondents. Then I started working on my preparation of semi-structured questions. Even as I communicate with the participants, I actually already started working on my questionnaire using the central question. And then from the central question, either I create a sub-question or I immediately go to the developmental questions. And of course, while I'm preparing this questionnaire, I see to it that I remember the pointers to avoid leading questions, avoid bias, because I already have something in mind. Maybe I want this word, phrases, ideas to emerge. And so maybe at some point I may be biased with my questions. So I'm trying my best to read it several times, make sense out of it, of course, prior to submission to Dr. Alex. And of course, you need to be polite and direct. Sometimes when we send out the direct questions, it tends to be impolite. So you need to be smooth in delivering that question in a very good statement. So in the end, you have to get it approved by your advisor or even your dean. The next step I did was I prepared the script. I already have the questions, so now I need to think like a director, a script writer. How will it go? Will it sound good? Will it sound logical? I need to see the process thoughts of the interview itself. And approval of the advisors, of course, and the dean to conduct video conferencing interview. During my time, let me share it quickly with you. It was a struggle because Dr. Alex was very strict, no, Allen, you have to do a face-to-face. And during that time, it was pre-COVID when I was having my approval. I have to find citations, not to beat Dr. Alex, but to at least show him that video conferencing is already an acceptable platform in doing the interview for the qualitative. And good enough, Dr. Alex recognized the effort and have approved. And it so happened that during the time of my interview, it was already the period of COVID. So whether I get approved or not, I'll be able to implement the video conferencing itself. Because the preparation for this was done like 2019 or so. So as early as that those years, so more than almost 2 years or more. So that's how we prepared this study. It's not immediately done for 6 months or 3 months only. So next up, this is a sample script. I'm not sure if you'll be able to appreciate. So in the script, I put my name there and the respondent or the participants. So I start with present a warm smile, good day po. Of course, I'm a Filipino. I need to have a touch of Tagalog or even Filipino, or if they're Visayan, I can speak a little of that. Welcome po and thank you for attending. I'm happy po that you are able to spare time for this interview. Mas lalo po sa pagpapaunlak, kumusta naman po kayo? So you give chance for the participants to reply or to react to what you've said. And then before we start, let me provide a quick introduction. So I did not start immediately. I just say hi, hello, as long as I can. And once the participant is already comfortable, I even ask what language they prefer. They want English, they want their dialect. As long as they are able to answer comfortably, I will never stop them. And I'll just have to do something else in order for me to transcribe the responses accordingly so I can extract the whole idea of the interview itself. So after the introduction, I reminded about the consent form, what are their rights, it's their right to withdraw anytime, the confidentiality clause, and I'm reminding them that this video is being recorded. I still confirm their approval for that. And then if they need to go answer a call or whatever, we can pause anytime. So all the conveniences and the comfort I want to provide to the interview, and then make the conversation really relax, enjoying. Okay, so I want them to enjoy whatever I'm going, any question I would be asking. I want them to enjoy and feel the whole ambience of the interview in order for me to get a better or the best result from the interview itself. So ask additional personal details, demographic background, and then proceed. How long have you been a volunteer? And then I go to the semi-structured questions. Of course, before the end of the interview, let me go first to the outline. Okay, before I continue with the script, let me just mention that I managed to gather seven participants to join in the study. One from the US, coming from New York. One from Africa, Mozambique. She's from Maputo. One from Europe. Two from UAE. One from Thailand and Philippines. In UAE, I managed to interview one from Abu Dhabi and one from Dubai. I'll be showing the robo photo later to show you what are the profile of these participants. So after qualifying my 7 participants, by the way, aside from Creswell, Morse of 1994 also mentioned that at least there should be 6 participants in the qualitative study. So scheduling of the interview according to the participants' convenience, to the point that I have to wake up early morning or I have to stay up late, as long as they're happy, I'll go with it. So again, confirmation of schedules and Zoom link. I sent them the Zoom link. They agreed to that. And so after my confirmation, at least few days before or a few weeks before, I started rehearsing for my interview script. I need to familiarize myself with the script itself and of course, internalize to make sure that I'm also comfortable. They will never feel comfortable if I myself will not feel comfortable with my interview script. Okay? The interview day, I check my laptop and other equipments. I put the speaker in order for me to make sure that I hear them well. I prepared my questionnaire. I printed them just to make sure I did not forget them. I have my pad and pen, of course, a bottle of water. Queued the participants an hour before, at least an hour before I called them, whether they are in Africa, US, or if they are okay, they are ready, and if we will push for the interview. And then 15 minutes before the interview time, I prompted them that the Zoom link is already open. Ma'am, sir, anytime soon you want to enter, at least you're most welcome. So this is the robo photo. I have 7 respondents. Respondent 1 is from Abu Dhabi, UAE, having 15 years of experience. Volunteered in UAE in Philippines. Method of interview is a video conferencing. Actually, all of them is video conferencing via Zoom, and they have approved and confirmed their consent to be interviewed. And participant 1 is coming from civic group and professional group at the same time. The second participant is coming from New York, USA, having more than 25 years of experience, volunteered in USA and Philippines, and coming from a professional group. The third participant is coming from Manila, which is having more than 40 years of experience in volunteering from Europe, Asia, and Philippines, coming from civic and religious group. The fourth one is Maputo, Mozambique, with more than 30 years of experience in volunteering, South Africa, Philippines, and coming from a civic group. The fifth one during that time was in Bangkok, Thailand. The location is Bangkok, Thailand, with more than 30 years of experience, Asia, Europe, and Philippines. The R3, R5, and R6 are having Asia, Europe, and Philippines volunteering experiences, which I believe would enrich the qualitative aspect of the study itself. And lastly, coming from Dubai, with experience of UAE, Philippines, more than 25 years. Okay. So during the interview itself, I greet them, I ask the participants how they are, make them warm, ask them if they need to go to toilet or pick up a call anytime, it will be all okay. I just want to make sure that the participant is really, really happy with the interview. Okay. Excited pa rin po to know your journey, especially how much was initially spent for the expertise. I believe I'm blessed having Dr. Alex, Dr. Amy, and Dr. Ivy. They got so interested and they were passionate about the topic itself because they are all volunteers. They gave their advices, expertise for free. So it doesn't happen all the time that you get 3 Christmas in 2 years. So I would say that it was all worth it, and we hope that this article will be published soon. I'll give you the status later at the end of the part of this presentation. So then start the participant telling something about themselves, their volunteering life, everything. And then I start asking the questions. And at the end, I want to make sure, no matter how serious was the conversation or the exchanges, I want to make sure that I made them laugh, I made them smile, I made them happy. I want them to make the interview memorable. So before saying goodbye, they were laughing. Okay, and then immediately after the Zoom itself, I sent the email. I even sent a WhatsApp, and I sent an SMS just to show them how, what level of gratitude I have for them for participating in the study. Okay, next is okay. That's just an example of the interview itself. My apologies. I have to put a smiley on the participant. Just if I was laughing this way or smiling this way, the participant is actually 3 times my facial expression. But sorry, I cannot show it to you. Okay, continuing with the qualitative. After the interview, this is the fun. No, it's not actually the fun part. This is now the start of my, how do I call it? Calvary? Calvary? Or what? These are my challenges and sleepless nights when I started transcribing minimum of 3 hours interview. I had one participant, it took us 9 hours to run the interview. You cannot imagine how many days I was transcribing that. A good thing, I asked help from my friends to transcribe it, and what I just did is I listened to it and double check what was transcribed verbatim. But the hardest part is when I have to convert the emic to ethic. I have to do it myself. I need to feel it. I need to repeat it. I need to internalize once again the messages that they have sent in order for me to come up the most possible substantial messages out of their interviews. Okay, ethic is the researcher's naive understanding of the responses. So I have to convert that before going to the analysis itself. Then I created the Dendogram in the Excel, start doing the whole and warm analysis. I'll show you later how it looks like. Then I created simulacrum, start working in the storytelling, then discussions through contextualization. This is my how would I say it? This is my Waterloo, the contextualization. And I don't know if Dr. Alex felt how I was struggling. When I was doing the discussion of the first article, it took me like a month or weeks just to finish one discussion. Until such time I was able to practice the last part of the discussions per attribute. The last attribute I had was, it took me 2 days to finish one. That includes the citations and cross-referencing. Thank God I learned. Thank you, Dr. Alex. While doing the discussion, it takes ages and ages, send out member checking procedure to 3 qualitative experts, those who doesn't know about the study. So while I'm doing it, I send out already the interpretation coming from the Dendogram. I send it out coded to the 3 experts, and in a week's time, I managed to receive all the responses, which positively quadrangulates. All of them agreed with what I have understood. So get everything reviewed and approved by Dr. Alex, complete the full article according to IMRAD. That would be, at some point, the qualitative aspect. So just to illustrate to you what is Dendogram and how tedious it is, if you notice, I just cut it out just to show, this is just for illustration purposes. You don't want to see how big is the file, okay? And I don't have even a big screen to see it, so I have to do it scrolling left and right and up and down. The red words marked, highlighted here are the what they call the significant messages I got from their revelations. Okay, and if you notice here, after I get a hold of this, I place the significant words below just to make sure I get the message correctly. And after the dendogram, this is now the analysis I've done. After the dendogram, I separated on the last part of the dendogram, I separated the keywords I took from the analysis itself. So from what is voluntarism to Filipinos, emerge was Bayanihan to share and help, camaraderie, giving, risking life culture, Bayanihan culture. So the repetition of Bayanihan was there, ready to help, helping community-oriented, volunteer by heart, clear purpose, philanthropy. So the summary, the essence of that is actually Bayanihan. The second, you would notice 1, 5, and 7 is blank because the longer the story, then I realized they were not able to answer the question. However, I took note of their responses and came up with compassion coming from motivation is really coming from within, willingness, natural, generous, compassion, connect to know. And then the last part is how did you manage your volunteerism, open time, resource informal, generosity was mentioned there again, flexible time, extra time, prioritizing concerns, etc. So I came out with the essence into generosity. This is what we call the full analysis. Now, if you move forward, from the summary, I came out with the answer to what characterizes Filipino volunteerism in diaspora, which is bayanihan, compassion, generosity, integrated life, prioritization, discipline, unconditional lifetime service, compassion, introspection, grit, and then the fortifying motive. That's what I got. And from there, I came out with characteristics of Filipino volunteerism. If you notice, I placed here sub Q2. This is my second article from the whole article. We have, Dr. Alex and I, we have 4 articles. And the first one is just a quick glimpse to the first article. We call it the components of Filipino volunteerism. Okay, it talks about not how Filipino volunteers, but what is needed when Filipino volunteer in certain activity. It's called component. Anyhow, proceeding with the discussion. So I came up with the intrinsic characteristics, decisional, and behavioral characteristics. Originally, it was bayanihan. Okay, and then we have the enduring service, compassionate will. In the decisional, integrating life, prioritizing option, fortifying commitment. And behavioral was generous heart, introspective mind, and self-actualizing individual. This is the rough idea we got. And then, we realigned it. Dr. Alex asked me, do you really want to use the characteristics, Allen? What else can we use? Then we came up with attributes, which the realignment here from bayanihan, Dr. Alex said, bayanihan, we know that already, but we need to make it more international. So we changed it from bayanihan to exemplifying spirit. And then we realized that compassionate will does not rhyme with exemplifying and enduring, so we changed it to commiserating. This is what Dr. Alex mentioned, that there should be a rhyme of the terminologies. And then last part, it's supposed to be behavioral component, which Dr. Aini mentioned earlier. And then later on, Dr. Alex and I, we decided to change it to attitudinal because we believe that these three attributes consist of attitude itself, not just behavior, but more of attitude. So this is our final attributes of Filipino volunteerism, and this is the warm analysis. So how am I doing? So let me make it fast. This is the simulacrum we created out of the warm analysis. Simulacrum is the representation of how you want your themes to be projected as an image. So we want to simplify it, and we came up with triangles. It's really simple to look at it. I mean, in front of the eyes, it's very easy. Okay, storytelling. These are the musings and the revelation. Let me read you one line. I think that volunteerism should not end because you have work or you transferred place. This is coming from the first participant. This is the storytelling of enduring. I have to prepare 9 storytelling coming out from the 9 attributes we have identified. Let me read one more. Yes, I will continue to volunteer until death. I am still strong. As I have told you, my life is there doing work for the people. That's coming from the 4 participants. So you have to format it like you're telling their stories per category, per attribute. So it's a bit painstaking also. And after that, this is now the contextualization. It's not storytelling. This is actually the discussion. So the discussion is the most painstaking part because this is where you need to do your bold attempt. You need to introduce your article, your discussion. You have to do a referencing, cross-referencing, and you need to support them by citations. And the difficult part is finding the latest study to match your discussions. Of course, there are principles, and I'm happy I have cited Sigmund Freud here, Maslow, Bloom, who else? Charles Darwin is also cited here. Most of the figures, known theories and theorists were mentioned in this study, which really I was happy about it. And Dr. Alex was really happy to realign my English. He's the expert on this matter. So in just under exemplifying spirit alone, I have cited 28 articles. And for the whole discussions, 400 citations. You will see that in the references from the article. Okay, after the qualitative, we have to go quickly on the quantitative. I think I have like 13 minutes to go. So in this phase, we conduct instrument development. This is now the it's the grinding time. We finish with the emotional aspect now. This is the, how would I say it? This is the mathematical side. This is now the reality side after the emotion. So we created the questions, not created from nothing. We developed the statements and the questions coming from the interviews themselves. And we decided to come up with 5 statements for the 9 attributes, which came up with the 45 statements from the 9 attributes. And submitted, of course, to my advisor in quantitative phase, which is Dr. Aini. I'm happy she approved it. We ran it and passed the Cronbach Alpha with good internal consistency of measurement. And then sent the questionnaire, survey question, to experts for phase validation. And aside from that, we sent it out on a Google survey form to at least 15 respondents using the screener of Filipino or Filipino descent with volunteering experience. And then after hearing the comments, the pilot on the sensitivities, the grammar, and other things, we realigned this from the 15 respondents. We realigned the questionnaire. And by the way, these are the questionnaires we came up with from the intrinsical attributes. I believe Dr. Alex and Dr. Aimee already showed this to you. just a quick example, I believe in camaraderie. This came out from the interview. I work better when I'm with others or working together. I volunteer conditionally. I give my all when I volunteer. And I help for free without anything. This is an exemplifying spirit. So it was also difficult to categorize them because it should exhibit the values of exemplifying spirit when we were creating the statements. For example, the enduring service, I volunteered since I was young. So it means to say they started young. I will continue to volunteer as long as I live. This is an indication of enduring service. And also, I will never get tired of helping others. That's another feature of enduring service. Okay? And this is for the decisional attribute. And the last one is for the attitudinal. So after the first round, which is the 15 respondents, we prepared another Google form for the second round, revised the Google survey, and sent it out. We managed to gather 125 respondents. Then we treated the data under exploratory factor analysis, EFA, in our software. Originally, we started with SPSS with Dr. Aimee. And then for alignment purposes, we did the same analysis or test in our software. So EFA statistical method to attempt identify small numbers of hypothetical construct, also known as factors. If you mention in your study factors, and there's one panelist who is a statistician, immediately they will look for the EFA. So be careful with the use of word factors. Another advisor came up, UP graduate of PhD statistics, Dr. Ivy Mangayaay, thank you very much. She came in through the kindness of Dr. Hapos, of course. Without Dr. Hapos, we will be able to meet Dr. Ivy. So as you see, the statistical analysis with Dr. Ivy. Survey questionnaire statements were realigned and regrouped according to assigned factors. Forward drop and 41 statements remain. So during the EFA, in the analysis itself, unrotated and rotated, I'll show it to you in a few minutes. So there were 2 attributes that were removed and 4 statements dropped. So prepare another Google form for the last round, then the scale Likert. Originally, we had the Likert scale and we have to transform it from Likert to rating scale, from slightly agree, from highly agree, disagree, and highly disagree, to slightly agree, moderately agree, mostly agree, and strongly agree. And sent out with the same screeners, of course, Filipino or Filipino descent, to secure respondents. We got 608 entries, but only 422 were deemed valid from the respondents. Okay, before continuing, let me thank the team, Dr. Alex, Dr. Aimee, and Dr. Ivy. By the way, the books behind Dr. Aimee and Dr. Alex are original. Mine and Dr. Ivy are just background. And look at the face of our statistician. Really, I don't know if she's worried or she's excited, but all the time she's telling us she's so excited about the study, and she's the expert in the R software, and we like what she's doing for the study so far. Okay, now let's go to the hardcore quantitative. Sorry, that's not qualitative, that's quantitative. So in the factor exploratory factor analysis, there were evident 10 factors came out from the 9 factors we have. Originally, we only have 9 attributes. During the rotations and during the unrotated or whatever, there were 10 identified factors from all the questions. And let me show you what I mean about that. So there are two analyses. One is the unrotated and the other one is rotated. If you see the yellow marks, This is in one line, let's say exemplifying question one or statement one. Exemplifying statement one, I highlighted having the highest value. So in this aspect, it falls under factor one. So I highlighted that. Then I realized when I was counting, there were only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all in all factors that has been identified. However, since it was rotated, then I have to go to the next calculation, which is the rotated factor loading. It showed here 10 factors that had been loading in the analysis itself. The objective of rotation is to achieve a simpler factor structure that can be meaningfully interpreted by the researcher. Okay, so we chose the rotated instead of the unrotated because unrotated would only mean 1, 2, 3, 3 factors all in all. It doesn't look good. However, here in the rotation or in the rotated, we found that there are 7. And, oops, sorry. And if you notice, these 1, 2, 3 factors were dropped. Why? Because according to acceptable statements or factors, at least minimum 3 statements per factor. Since this has 2, 1, and 1, we have to drop this. So, from the earlier model, we drop the fortifying commitment and self-actualize and retain the exemplifying, enduring, commiserating, integrating, prioritizing, generous, and introspective mind. How? Let me show it to you. This is now the realignment. After the loading, the results will show you what are the statements that group together, and each statement I labeled them. So like for example, prioritizing option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, exemplifying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the labels of the statements. And the introspective mind, under introspective mind, these are the groupings now. The loaded factors here, statements here are 11, and the constructs here are also 11. While enduring has 5, compassionate has almost perfect score, which is 4, integrating also and prioritizing in the generous score. Okay. Okay, the data then were treated under confirmatory factor analysis using SEM, structural equation modeling. Same R software was used. CFA is used to confirm structure identified by EFA. CFA should not be conducted in the same sample with EFA. Doing such uses generalizability. So, meaning to say, if I have 150 for EFA, when I run the CFA, I should not have the same population. I should find another sample group to test the survey questionnaire to make it valid. From CFA, this is the situation now. While I'm discussing to you, I haven't much sleep yet because I'm doing the IRT, which is the graded response model in R. And it's a bit, how would I say, tedious, because the certain programs need to be aligned in order for you to generate. Although I will be able to show you some samples later on. So what is GRM? It's used to test IRT. It is a polytomous IRT model for use with items possessing with 2 or more ordinal response categories or item, varying number ordinal response categories. This model can be used for survey customer satisfaction, self-efficacy, and happiness because they're able to set the level. Yet it depends on the study you're doing. After completing EFA, CFA, and IRT, we can then conclude that the instrument development is successful as it is both reliable and valid and ready to use. However, I did not say my instrument is ready to use because it's still under process. So I hope you pardon me with that. Until such time we will be able to release the results. This is the journey I'm just giving. Again, EFA is to identify what are the factors by loading it. CFA is to confirm it. IRT is to measure the level. If it's high or low, we're doing the IRT now because we want to know what is the level of exemplifying spirit a Filipino has when they use the instrument for testing, or what is the level of enduring service, or what is the level of generous heart they have. So this is what we're doing right now on the IRT. So this is the SEM sample done by R. I hope some of you are familiar with the analysis. Just let me give you a quick run through. The encircled values are what we call the acceptable values. For comparative fit index and Tucker-Lewis index, CFI and TLI, the acceptable value is supposed to be 0.95 and above. While RMS-EA and SRMR are both should be below 0.08 to say that the model is fit or a good fit. Okay. Now, in this fit, none was removed from the model, meaning to say there were no considered statement to be removed because the scores are all acceptable. However, in the next slide, let me just quickly show you. In order for me to arrive at 0.98 and 0.97 CFI and TLI respectively, and to get an even RMSEA, I asked Dr. Ivy if this can be accepted because it's 0.83, it's still in the range of 0.08. And since SRMR is still 0.026, so she considered it as to be acceptable. However, in order for me to achieve this, you cannot imagine how many times I did the combination of removing statements, which in this case, I removed the B14, B15, B17, and B22. These are for the exemplifying spirit. Okay? IRT, just a quick one. Just a glimpse of what I did a trial run very early this morning and very late night last night. These are the two IRT. The first one is about discrimination, item discrimination. The value is supposed to be between 0.8 to 2.5. More than or less than that cannot be accepted as a good model or a good fit. And on the other hand, Orlando Tyson p-value should be at least more than 0.05, which in the one, which is the integrating light in decisional attribute, the value is 0. Sad to say, this will be rejected. And later on, if I should accept this analysis, I have to remove this B13 from my statement, which is really sad. So if I started with the 45 and I continue with this line of analysis, I might end up 5 pieces of statements, which will make my questionnaire questionable. So hopefully we'll be able to get a good result. But our job is to report whatever is the result in the fair sense of research. It's not just we want success. At some point, an unexpected failure from any analysis would still add value to the knowledge world of research, because that way they'll be able to avoid the pathways that can involve failure. We call that lesson learned. So this is what I have done, quantitative and qualitative, and I hope next time we'll be able to meet to complete the meta inference already discussed by Dr. Aimee, but that should be at some point not as tedious as qualitative and quantitative headaches and even the reporting. Just to leave you a good message from Mahatma Gandhi, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure to be with you this evening, this afternoon, and this morning. Question po.
Any questions for our resource speaker, Dr.